The ink on the contract was barely dry, but the energy in the conference room had already shifted. It was the kind of silence that smelled like money. I stood at the head of the mahogany table and looked out the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office on the 42nd floor. The Denver skyline was draped in the golden hue of the late afternoon sun. Below me, the city looked like a circuit board of moving lights and endless possibilities. "Thank you for trusting Davis Tech with your infrastructure," I said. My voice was steady and cool. It was the voice of a woman who knew exactly what she was worth. The CEO of the logistics firm stood up and buttoned his jacket. He was a man who did not hand out compliments easily. "You drive a hard bargain, Nia," he said as he extended his hand. "But your code is solid. I have never seen a platform scale this efficiently. We are looking forward to the rollout." I shook his hand firmly. "You will not be disappointed. My team is ready to deploy by Monday morning." As the clients filed out of the glass doors, the adrenaline that had been holding me upright began to fade. I sank into my leather chair and let out a long breath. This was it. The deal was worth $2.5 million. It was the milestone I had been chasing for 3 years. I wanted to scream. I wanted to pop a bottle of champagne. I wanted to call someone who would understand the magnitude of this victory. But before I could even reach for the celebratory bottle of water on my desk, my phone buzzed against the glass surface. It was a sharp and angry sound that cut through the peace of my office. I glanced at the screen. The name Loretta flashed in bright white letters. My stomach tightened. It was an instant physical reaction. One moment I was a 30-year-old CEO commanding a room of powerful men. The next moment, I was a frightened little girl waiting for a scolding. I hesitated. I knew I should let it go to voicemail. Nothing good ever came from a call during work hours, but the phone buzzed again and again. It was persistent. It was demanding. I picked it up. "Hello, Mother," I said. I tried to keep my voice professional. There were no greetings. There was no warmth. There was only the sharp tone of a woman who was used to getting her way. "You need to get over here right now," Loretta said. Her voice was loud enough that I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "Your brother has big news. He needs the whole family present." I rubbed my temples. "Mom, I am working. I just closed a massive deal, and I have a team meeting in 20 minutes to discuss the implementation. I do not care about your little computer games, Nia," she snapped. "This is important. Dante is home. He has an announcement that is going to change everything for this family. You need to be here to support him. And for the love of God, change your clothes before you come. Do not show up wearing one of those shapeless sacks you call a suit. Try to look like a lady for once." The line went dead before I could respond. I stared at the phone. The joy of the $2.5 million contract evaporated like mist. In my mother's eyes, I was not a tech mogul. I was not a self-made millionaire. I was just the sister who needed to show up and clap for the golden boy. I canceled my team meeting. I told my assistant I had a family emergency. The lie tasted like ash in my mouth. 30 minutes later, I was driving my charcoal gray Range Rover down Interstate 25. The leather steering wheel felt smooth under my palms. The heated seat warmed my back. This car cost more than my parents had earned in a decade. It was a fortress of solitude and success. But as I took the exit toward the neighborhood where I grew up, I felt the familiar weight of anxiety settling on my chest. I did not drive the Range Rover to the house. I never did. I pulled over on a quiet side street 2 blocks away from my parents' home. I parked the luxury SUV behind a line of overgrown bushes and turned off the engine. I checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. I was wearing a tailored navy blazer and black trousers. It was elegant. It was professional. It was expensive. But to Loretta, it was a costume that hid the fact that I was not married and did not have children. I stepped out of the car and locked it. As I began the walk toward the house, the memories hit me. They always did when I walked these cracks in the sidewalk. I remembered being 16 years old. It was a Tuesday morning in November. The wind in Denver cut through you like a knife during that time of year. I was standing at the bus stop shivering in a thin coat because my parents said they could not afford a new one for me. My hands were shoved deep in my pockets as I waited for the number 15 bus to take me to my shift at the coffee shop. I had to work to pay for my own SAT prep courses. Then I heard the roar of an engine. Dante had pulled up to the stoplight in a brand new cherry red Mustang. It shone under the streetlights. He was revving the engine and laughing with his friends in the passenger seat. He saw me standing there freezing. He did not offer me a ride. He just revved the engine louder and peeled away when the light turned green, leaving me in a cloud of exhaust. That night I came home and asked my parents how they could afford a car for him when they could not help me with college applications. Loretta had looked at me with cold eyes. "Dante is special," she said. "He needs a car to build his network. He is going places, Nia. You are strong enough to take the bus." I kept walking. The memory burned just as hot today as it did 14 years ago. They had always bet on him. They poured every resource and every ounce of love into Dante. I was the spare part. I was the background noise. I reached the driveway of the small ranch-style house. The paint was peeling around the window frames. The grass was patchy, but in the driveway sat a leased BMW that I knew Dante could not afford. It was flashy and impractical, just like him. I took a deep breath and opened the front door. The air inside was thick and humid. It smelled of collard greens and fried chicken and heavy spices. It was the smell of my childhood. For a second, it was comforting. But then I heard the voices coming from the living room, and the comfort turned into dread. Well, look who finally decided to grace us with her presence. The voice belonged to Tasha. My cousin was sitting on the plastic-covered sofa, scrolling through her phone. She did not look up as I walked in. She popped a piece of gum loudly. "I thought you were a CEO now, Nia," she said. Her tone was dripping with sarcasm. "Why do you look like you just finished a shift at the post office? That jacket is tragic." I closed the door behind me and locked it. The noise of the lock clicking into place sounded like the cell door closing on a prisoner. "Hello, Tasha," I said. I kept my face blank. "It is nice to see you too. Where is everyone?" "They're in the kitchen celebrating," Tasha said. She finally looked up and scanned me from head to toe. Her eyes lingered on my plain leather bag. She smirked. "Real success means you can dress like a woman, Nia. But I guess we cannot all be blessed. Go on back. Dante is holding court." I tightened my grip on my bag. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to walk back to my Range Rover and drive back to my glass tower where people respected me. I wanted to tell Tasha that my tragic jacket cost $3,000, but I did not. I walked toward the kitchen. I could hear Dante's voice booming. He was laughing that loud, hollow laugh that charmed everyone except me. I stepped into the kitchen doorway. The room was crowded. My father Bernard was sitting at the small round table. He looked tired. He held a can of cheap beer in his hand and stared at the tablecloth. He did not look up when I entered. Loretta was standing by the stove stirring a massive pot of greens. Her face was flushed from the heat. When she saw me, her smile dropped. "You are late," she said. "And look at you, I told you to dress up." "I am here, Mom," I said. "What is the big news?" Dante spun around. He was holding a glass of dark liquor. He was wearing a suit that was too tight in the shoulders and too shiny under the kitchen lights. He grinned, but the smile did not reach his eyes. It was a predator's smile. "Sis," he shouted. He opened his arms wide as if he wanted to hug me, but he did not move his feet. "You are just in time. I was just telling everyone about the future." He gestured to the table. Spread out among the grease stains and beer cans were blueprints. They were rolled out and held down by salt shakers. I looked at the papers. I looked at my brother. I looked at my mother, who was beaming at him with a pride she had never shown me. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. This was not just a dinner. This was a setup, and I had walked right into the trap. I stood in the doorway of the kitchen and watched the performance unfold. It was a play I had seen 1,000 times before, but tonight the production value was cheaper and the actors were more desperate. Dante stood at the head of the small table. He was leaning over the grease-stained blueprints like a general commanding an army. He wore a suit that was a shade of electric blue that offended the eyes. It was clearly a rental. The sleeves were too long and covered his knuckles, and the fabric had a synthetic sheen that screamed polyester. But Dante wore it with the arrogance of a man in a bespoke tuxedo. "This is it, Mama," Dante said. He swept his hand over the papers. "We are not just talking about flipping houses. That is small time. That is for amateurs. I am talking about legacy. I am talking about revitalization. We are going to take this neighborhood back." He paused for effect. He looked at Loretta and then at Tasha, waiting for the applause. Loretta clapped her hands together. Her eyes were shining with a fanatic devotion. "My baby is a visionary," she cooed. "I always knew you were meant for greatness, Dante. You have the spirit of a king." Tasha popped her gum again. "So what is the plan exactly? You are going to buy the whole block with what money?" Dante waved her off dismissively. "Details." Tasha. "You are always bogged down in the details. That is why you are still working at the hair salon. Investors are lining up. I have meetings with heavy hitters all over Denver. They see the potential. They see the vision. We call it the Renaissance Project. Mixed-use development. Luxury condos on top and retail on the bottom. It is going to gentrify this whole area." I felt a bile rise in my throat. He was using words he had heard on television. He did not know the first thing about zoning laws or capital gains or construction permits. He was a con artist pitching a dream to the only two people on earth foolish enough to believe him. I stepped fully into the room. The air in the kitchen was hot and heavy. The smell of the collard greens was overpowering, now mixed with the stale scent of Dante's cheap cologne. I finally spoke up. "Gentrification requires capital, Dante. It requires liquidity. You do not even own a home. How are you planning to develop an entire city block?" The room went silent. Dante turned to me slowly. His eyes narrowed. There was that familiar flicker of annoyance, the look a king gives a peasant who speaks out of turn. "See, Mama?" He pointed a finger at me. "This is what I'm talking about. Negative energy. I am trying to build generational wealth here, and she comes in with her doubt. She is jealous. She has always been jealous because she knows she does not have the vision." Loretta turned to me. Her face hardened. The warmth she had shown Dante evaporated instantly. "Watch your mouth, Nia," she snapped. "Your brother is a businessman. He understands things you do not. Just because you play with computers all day does not mean you know how the real world works." I opened my mouth to argue. I wanted to tell them that I managed a company with 50 employees. I wanted to tell them that I understood capital better than anyone in this room. But Loretta cut me off. "Stop standing there like a statue," she said. "Your brother is thirsty. All that talking has made him dry. Be useful for once and pour him some water." The command hit me like a physical slap. I stood frozen. I was 30 years old. I was a CEO. I drove a Range Rover. And in this house, I was still the servant. "Excuse me," I asked. My voice was low. "You heard me," Loretta said. She turned back to the stove and stirred the pot aggressively. "Get the pitcher. Fill his glass. Do not make me tell you twice." Tasha snickered from her spot in the corner. "Go on, Cinderella. The king needs his water." I looked at Bernard. My father was sitting at the table with his head down. He was meticulously cutting a piece of cornbread into tiny squares. He refused to look at me. He refused to intervene. His silence was louder than Dante's boasting. I felt my heart hammering against my ribs. It was a furious rhythm. I walked over to the counter. My movements were stiff. I grabbed the plastic pitcher of ice water. My hand was shaking not from fear, but from a rage so pure it felt like it could melt the plastic. I walked over to Dante. He was smirking. He leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. He looked at me with a triumphant sneer. "That is a good girl, sis," he said. "Maybe if you are nice, I will let you work the front desk at my new headquarters. I will need someone to answer the phones." Loretta laughed, a sharp cackling sound. "That is a good idea, Dante. She needs to get out from behind those screens. Look at her. She is plain. She is boring. At least if she works for you, she might meet a wealthy man. God knows she is not going to attract one on her own." She turned to face me fully. Her eyes were critical. "Look at your brother Nia. He is practically a tycoon. He is making moves. And you are just scraping by, clicking away at that computer like a secretary. When are you going to open your eyes? When are you going to make us proud like he does?" Something inside me snapped. It was not a loud snap. It was the sound of a cable finally giving way under too much tension. I did not pour the water into his glass. I slammed the heavy pitcher down on the table. Water sloshed over the sides and soaked the edges of the precious blueprints. The sound was like a gunshot in the small kitchen. Dante jumped back. "Hey, watch it! You are ruining the plans!" I did not apologize. I did not shrink back. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. My hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. I unlocked the screen and opened my banking application. Face ID recognized me instantly. The blue loading circle spun for a fraction of a second before the dashboard appeared. I did not say a word. I tossed the phone onto the center of the table right on top of the wet blueprints. It landed with a heavy thud. "What is this?" Dante asked. He looked at the phone with disgust. "Look at it," I said. My voice was dangerously calm. Loretta frowned. "What are you doing, Nia? Pick that up." "You are being dramatic." "Look at it!" I screamed. The volume of my voice made Bernard flinch. Dante looked down. His eyes scanned the screen. He squinted as if he could not process what he was seeing. I watched his face. I watched the confusion turn to shock, and then to something darker. He read the number out loud. His voice was a whisper. $28,412,906. The room went absolutely still. The only sound was the humming of the refrigerator. Loretta froze with the spoon midway to her mouth. 28 million, she repeated. Her voice trembled. "What are you talking about?" Dante picked up the phone. His hands were shaking. He scrolled down. He saw the breakdown. Liquid cash, stocks, equity. It was undeniable. It was a fortune that could buy this entire neighborhood 10 times over. He looked up at me. His face was pale. The smirk was gone. In its place was a twisted expression of envy and fury. "This is fake," he said. He threw the phone back onto the table. It slid across the wet paper. "It is not fake," I said. I crossed my arms. "That is my liquidity. That is what I built while you were playing pretend with blueprints you do not understand. That is what a real tycoon looks like, Dante." Dante stood up so fast his chair tipped over backward. "You are lying," he shouted. He pointed a shaking finger at my face. "There is no way you made that money legal. No way. You, the girl who could barely pay for community college." He looked at Loretta. "Mama, do not believe her. She is doing something dirty." He turned back to me, his eyes wild. "Who are you sleeping with?" "That is it, right? You are an escort. You are selling yourself to rich white men in those high rises. Or maybe you are moving product. You are washing money for dealers." I laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. "You think the only way a black woman can make money is on her back or on the street?" "You are pathetic, Dante." Loretta stepped forward. Her shock was replaced by indignation. "Is it true, Nia?" she demanded. Her eyes searched my face, not for truth, but for a reason to condemn me. "Did you do something sinful to get this money?" I looked at my mother. I looked at the woman who had just called me plain and boring. "I own a software company, Mother," I said. "I write code that powers logistics for half the state. I have been building it for 6 years. I told you about it. I tried to tell you a dozen times, but you were too busy praising Dante for tying his shoes." Loretta's face flushed. She looked at the phone again and then at me. The realization sank in. The money was real. The power shifted in the room instantly. But instead of pride, I saw greed. And then I saw anger. "You hid this," she whispered. Her voice rose to a shriek. "You had this kind of money and you let us struggle. You let your brother drive that leased car. You let your father work overtime at the warehouse." She slammed her hand on the counter. "You selfish girl, you ungrateful selfish girl. We raised you. We fed you. And you sit on millions while your family fights for scraps." I looked at Bernard. "Dad," I asked, "do you have anything to say?" Bernard looked up. His eyes were sad and tired. He looked at the phone and then at Dante, who was panting with rage. He looked at Loretta, who was trembling with indignation. Then he looked at me, and he looked back down at his cornbread. He picked up his fork and continued to eat. That silence broke the last chain that held me to them. Dante leaned over the table. His face was inches from mine. He spat the words out. "You owe us," he hissed. "You think you are better than us? You are nothing. That money belongs to this family. You are going to sign a check for this project, Nia. You are going to fund the Renaissance project. You hear me? You are going to make this right." I reached out and picked up my phone. I wiped the water from the screen on my blazer. I slipped the phone into my pocket. "I owe you nothing," I said. I looked Dante in the eye. "I owe you absolutely nothing. I worked 18-hour days. I ate ramen noodles while you ate steak on Mom's dime. I built this brick by brick." I turned to Loretta. "You wanted a tycoon? You have one standing in your kitchen, but you bet on the wrong horse. And now you lose." I turned to leave. "You cannot walk away from us," Dante screamed. He grabbed my arm. His grip was painful. "We are family. Blood is thicker than water. Nia." I yanked my arm away with a force that surprised him. He stumbled back. I turned around at the doorway. I looked at the three of them, the golden boy who was tarnished, the mother who was a tyrant, the father who was a ghost. "This money is my sweat," I said. My voice was ice cold. "It is my tears. It is my life. Not one of you will touch a single penny, not a dime. Do not call me. Do not come to my office." I walked out of the kitchen. Behind me, Dante exploded. I heard the sound of glass shattering. "You come back here," he screamed. "You ungrateful bitch. You will pay for this." Loretta's voice joined him. "You are dead to me. Nia, if you walk out that door, you are dead to me." I walked down the hallway. The photos on the wall seemed to glare at me. They were all of Dante. Dante at graduation, Dante at prom, Dante holding a trophy for participation. I unlocked the front door and stepped out into the cool night air. I did not run. I walked. I walked steadily down the driveway past the leased BMW that was a symbol of their delusion. I walked the 2 blocks to my Range Rover. My heart was pounding in my ears, but my head was clear. I unlocked my car and slid into the driver's seat. The silence of the cabin wrapped around me like a shield. I looked at my hands. They were steady. I started the engine. The powerful purr of the motor drowned out the memory of their screams. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. I did not look back in the rearview mirror. I knew what was behind me, a house built on lies and favoritism. I drove toward the highway, toward the city lights, toward the glass tower where I belonged. The war had officially begun, and for the first time in my life, I had the ammunition to win. The morning sun that filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my penthouse apartment offered no warmth. It only illuminated the device sitting on my marble kitchen island. My phone was vibrating against the stone surface. It had been vibrating for 8 hours straight. The low hum was a drill boring into my skull. I stood in my silk robe holding a cup of black coffee that had gone cold. I stared at the screen. The notifications were stacking up like bricks in a wall designed to trap me. I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the screen. I knew I should not look. I knew that engaging with them was like opening a wound in shark-infested waters. But the conditioning of 3 decades was not easily broken. I unlocked the device. The messages from Dante formed a manic timeline of grief and greed. 2 a.m. "Nia, I am sorry. I lost my head. The pressure is getting to me. You know how it is. We are family. Call me." 3 a.m. "Sis, seriously, pick up. I just need a seed investment, $50,000. That is pocket change for you. It will show Mom you care. 4:30 a.m. "You are ignoring me now. After everything we went through, you are cold. You have let that money freeze your heart. 6 a.m. "Fine, keep your money. But do not blame me when I have to go to extremes to feed this family. You are forcing my hand." I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. It was a physical weight. He was cycling through every tactic in the manipulator's handbook. He tried charm, he tried pity, he tried guilt, and finally, he tried threats. Then there were the messages from Loretta. They were different. They were weaponized righteousness. Luke 12:48. "For unto whomsoever much is given of him shall be much required." You have been blessed, Nia. Do not hoard your blessings. God watches those who turn their backs on their own blood. Another one followed immediately. Your father is sick with worry. You are killing him with this silence. Is that what you want? To bury your parents with a broken heart? Honor thy father and mother, so that your days may be long. I set the phone down. My hand was shaking. Loretta knew exactly where to strike. She knew that despite my success and my independence, I still carried the deep cultural fear of being the one who abandoned the village. In our community, you rise so you can lift others. That was the rule. That was the unwritten law. If you made it out, you sent the elevator back down. But my family did not want the elevator. They wanted to own the building. I showered and dressed in my armor, a black sheath dress and stiletto heels that clicked sharply against the floor. I pulled my hair back into a severe bun. I needed to feel impenetrable. I arrived at Davis Tech at 8:30. The lobby was a sanctuary of glass and polished steel. The reception desk was manned by Sarah, a young woman with a bright smile who guarded the gate to my empire. Good morning, Ms. Davis, Sarah said. Her smile faltered when she saw my face. Is everything all right? I am fine, Sarah, I said. I forced a smile. If anyone calls asking for me, screen it. No exceptions. I took the elevator up to the 42nd floor. I buried myself in code reviews and operational spreadsheets. I tried to lose myself in the logic of algorithms where every problem had a solution and variables did not scream at you. At 10 o'clock, my office line blinked red. I ignored it. Then my cell phone buzzed. It was Sarah. I picked it up. Yes, Sarah. Ms. Davis, she whispered. Her voice was trembling. There is a man down here. He says he is your brother. He says he is a co-founder of the company. My blood ran cold. He did not just text. He came to my sanctuary. I am coming down, I said. Call security, Sarah said. Please. He is yelling at the delivery driver. I slammed the phone down. I marched to the elevator. My fury was a cold, hard knot in my chest. He had crossed the line. He had brought his circus to my place of business. When the elevator doors opened on the ground floor, the sound of Dante's voice hit me like a physical blow. I am the reason she is in that chair, he was shouting. He was standing in the center of the lobby wearing that same electric blue suit from the night before. It looked even cheaper in the daylight. Do you know who I am? I am Dante Davis. I own half of this building. 2 security guards were approaching him cautiously. Sir, you need to lower your voice, one of them said. Dante spun around. Do not touch me. You rent a cop. I am going to have your badge. Dante, I shouted. My voice echoed off the high ceilings. The entire lobby froze. Employees who were passing through stopped. Clients waiting on the leather sofas looked up. Dante turned to me. A wide, manic grin spread across his face. There she is, he yelled. He opened his arms. My partner, my sister. Tell these fools who I am, Nia. Tell them about the Renaissance Project. I walked toward him. My heels clicked rhythmically on the marble. I stopped 5 feet away. I did not look at the stunned employees. I looked only at him. You need to leave, I said. My voice was low and deadly. Right now. Dante's grin faltered. Come on, sis. Do not be like that. I just came to finalize the paperwork. I know you were tired last night. I know you did not mean what you said. He took a step toward me. I stepped back. Security, I said. Remove him. The 2 guards moved in instantly. They were large men, former military. They grabbed Dante by the arms. Dante's face twisted. Confusion turned to pure, unadulterated rage. Get your hands off me, he screamed. He struggled against their grip. Nia, tell them to stop. I am your brother. You are trespassing, I said. I turned my back on him. That was the trigger. You bitch, he screamed. The word tore through the professional silence of the lobby. You ungrateful heifer, I will ruin you. You hear me? I will burn this whole place down. You think you are better than us? You are nothing. You are a fraud. The guards dragged him toward the revolving doors. His heels skidded on the polished floor. He was kicking and thrashing like a child having a tantrum. Concho Kai, he screamed again. I will make you pay. The doors spun. He was shoved out onto the sidewalk. I watched through the glass as he pounded on the window, his mouth still moving in a stream of obscenities. Then he stormed off toward the parking lot. The lobby was silent. Every eye was on me. Sarah was pale behind the desk. A courier was holding a package frozen in place. I straightened my blazer. I lifted my chin. "I apologize for the disturbance," I said to the room. My voice was steady, though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "Please return to your work." I walked back to the elevator. I did not run. I did not cry. I waited until the doors closed and I was alone in the steel box before I let out a shuddering breath. I leaned my forehead against the cool metal wall. I needed help. 1 hour later, I was sitting in a bistro 3 blocks away. Across from me sat Jasmine. She was wearing a cream-colored power suit and sipping an iced tea. Jasmine was my attorney, but she was also the only person on earth who knew the full extent of the scars my family had left. She listened as I recounted the dinner and the scene in the lobby. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyes were sharp. "So he claimed he was a founder," she said. She was not asking. She was clarifying. "Yes," I said, "in front of my staff, in front of clients." "And Loretta is hitting you with the Bible verses, I assume?" I nodded. "Luke 12:48. Jasmine sighed. She set her glass down. "Nia, we need to talk about the tax." I looked down at my salad. "I know. The black tax. It is not just a catchy phrase," Nia Jasmine said. She leaned forward. "It is a system of survival that has been warped into a system of exploitation. Historically, we lifted each other up because nobody else would. If one person got a job at the factory, they got their cousin hired. If one person got a degree, they helped pay for the next one. That is noble. That is love." She pointed a manicured finger at me. "But what your family is doing is not survival. It is parasitism." I flinched at the word. "They are still my parents, Jasmine. They fed me. They clothed me. They did the bare minimum required by law," Jasmine said. Her voice was hard. "And now they want a return on an investment they never made. They invested in Dante. You were the hedge fund they did not know they had. Now that Dante has crashed, they are trying to liquidate you." I rubbed my face. "It is hard, Jasmine. You do not understand the guilt. When I look at my bank account and I see those zeros and I know they are struggling to pay the mortgage on that house, I feel sick. I feel like a traitor." "You are not a traitor," Jasmine said firmly. "You are a survivor. Listen to me. They do not see you as a daughter. They do not see you as a sister. They see you as an ATM machine with a pulse. If you give Dante $50,000 today, he will be back next week for $100,000. And when you say no, then he will burn you just the same." She reached across the table and took my hand. "You have to kill the hope, Nia. That is the only way this ends. As long as they think there is a chance they can bully you into submission, they will keep escalating. You saw him today. He is desperate, and desperate men are dangerous." I looked out the window at the busy street. I thought about Dante's face pressed against the glass of my lobby. I thought about the hate in his eyes. "What do I do?" I asked. Jasmine pulled a file folder from her bag. "We get ahead of it. We file a cease and desist order for the harassment. We notify security to ban him from the premises permanently. And we start monitoring your credit and your public records. If he is claiming to be a founder, he might be trying to use your name for other things." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Do you think he would go that far?" Jasmine looked at me with pity. "He just called you a bitch in front of your employees because you would not give him millions of dollars for a fantasy. Yes, Nia, I think he would go that far." I took a deep breath. I picked up my fork. The guilt was still there, heavy and suffocating. But under the guilt was survival. "Do it," I said. "File the papers." Jasmine nodded and opened her notebook. But even as we strategized, I knew this was not the end. The text messages were just the opening salvo. The scene in the lobby was just a skirmish. The war for my life had just moved from the kitchen table to the real world, and I had a sinking feeling that Dante was not going to stop until one of us was destroyed. The ambush did not happen in a boardroom or a dark alley. It happened in the parking lot of Whole Foods on a sunny Tuesday evening. I was loading 2 bags of organic groceries into the trunk of my Range Rover. It was a mundane task. It was a moment of quiet normalcy after the chaos at my office the previous day. I was looking forward to cooking a simple meal of salmon and asparagus and drinking a glass of wine in silence. Then I smelled it. It was a scent that instantly transported me back to the wooden pews of the Mount Zion Baptist Church. It was a mixture of heavy floral perfume, peppermint candies, and mothballs. It was the scent of judgment. Nia Davis. The voice was not loud, but it carried the weight of moral authority. I froze. I slowly closed the trunk of my car and turned around. Standing between me and the driver's side door were 3 women. They were dressed in their Sunday best on a Tuesday. Sister Betty wore a wide-brimmed hat with a purple ribbon. Sister Clara clutched a leather-bound Bible against her chest like a shield. Sister Ruth stood slightly behind them, her arms crossed and her lips pursed in a line of disapproval. These were the mothers of the church. They were the gatekeepers of the community. They had known me since I was in diapers. They had pinched my cheeks when I recited Easter speeches, and they had scolded me when my skirt was an inch too short. "Hello, Sister Betty," I said. I kept my voice polite, but my guard was up. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Sister Betty stepped forward. She was a short woman, but she had a presence that could fill a cathedral. "We are not here for pleasure, Nia," she said. "We are here on a mission of mercy. Your mother is distraught. She called the prayer circle this morning in tears. She says you have hardened your heart against your own flesh and blood." I sighed. I should have known. Loretta had realized that direct attacks were not working, so she had deployed the heavy artillery. She had weaponized the church. "My heart is fine, Sister Betty," I said. I reached for my car door handle. "If you will excuse me, I have frozen goods that need to get home." Sister Clara stepped in front of the door, blocking my path. "Do not walk away from wisdom, child," she said. She tapped the Bible with a manicured fingernail. "The good book says, 'To whom much is given, much is required.' You have been blessed, Nia. We look at this car, we look at your clothes, we hear about your company in the high-rise. You have reached the mountaintop, and for that I give glory to God," Sister Ruth added. Her voice was sharp. "But God did not bless you so you could look down on your family. He blessed you so you could be a vessel, a river, not a reservoir." I leaned back against the cool metal of my car. I crossed my arms. "So this is about money," I said. "Loretta sent you here to shake me down for the money Dante thinks he is owed." Sister Betty shook her head sadly. "It is not about money, Nia. It is about honor. It is about preventing shame. Your brother has a vision. He is trying to build something for the community. And you are sitting on millions of dollars letting him struggle. You are letting your parents worry about their future while you eat the fat of the land." "It is ugly," Sister Clara said. "It is ugly to see a daughter turn her back on the people who raised her. The whole congregation is talking. They are saying you have forgotten where you came from. They are saying you have sold your soul to the white man's world and left your people behind." The words stung. They were designed to sting. They struck at the core of my identity. In our world, the worst thing you could be was a sellout. The worst sin was success without distribution. I looked at these 3 women. I remembered when Sister Betty gave me $5 for my high school graduation. I remembered when Sister Clara brought a casserole when I had the chicken pox. They were family in the way that mattered, but they were blind. "You are right," I said. My voice was low. "I have been blessed. I worked 18-hour days for 10 years to earn those blessings. I missed holidays. I missed birthdays. I ate rice and beans while I taught myself to code in a basement apartment. That is no excuse for greed," Sister Ruth snapped. "I am not finished," I said. My voice rose. I did not shout, but the steel in my tone made them flinch. "You talk about Dante's vision," I continued. "Do you know what his vision is? Last year, he borrowed $10,000 from me to start a clothing line. Do you know where that money went?" The women looked at each other. They did not answer. "It went to a trip to Miami," I said. I looked directly at Sister Betty. "He spent it on bottle service in clubs and a rental Lamborghini. He posted the pictures on Instagram. Did you see those? Or did Loretta leave that part out of the prayer request?" Sister Betty adjusted her hat. "That is in the past, Nia. He is a man now. He is trying to do real estate." "Real estate," I laughed. It was a harsh sound. "He does not have a license. He does not have a business plan. He tried to force me to sign a blank check yesterday. When I refused, he called me a bitch in the lobby of my office building." Sister Clara gasped. "He did not. He did," I said. And now Loretta sends you here to ambush me in a parking lot. She sends you to quote scripture to guilt me into funding his lifestyle. I pushed off the car and took a step toward them. They stepped back instinctively. Does the Bible say I should fund a gambler, I asked. Does it say I should cast my pearls before swine? Because that is what Dante is doing. He is not building a legacy. He is looking for a handout. And if I give him that money, it will be gone in a month. And then what? Will you come back here and ask for more? Sister Betty pursed her lips. You are speaking out of anger, Nia. You are judging your brother. I am speaking the truth, I said. And the truth is that Dante is 32 years old. He is a grown man. If he wants to be a tycoon, he can go to the bank and get a loan like I did, but he cannot do that. Do you know why I paused? I let the silence hang in the air. Because his credit score is under 500, I whispered. Because he has defaulted on 3 car loans. Because he is a financial liability, and Loretta knows it. That is why she wants my money. Because no bank on earth would touch him. The 3 women stood in silence. The righteous indignation had drained out of their faces, leaving only confusion. They had been sold a story of a helpless hero and a wicked sister. The reality was much more complicated. Sister Betty looked down at her shoes. Your mother is just worried, she mumbled. She just wants the family to be together. My mother wants control, I said, and she is using you to get it. Go back and tell the prayer circle the truth. Tell them I am not hoarding blessings. I am protecting them from being squandered. I opened my car door, and Sister Betty, I said as I slid into the driver's seat. She looked up. Do not ever corner me in a parking lot again, I said. If you want to talk to me, come to my office and make an appointment. I am a CEO. Treat me with the respect I have earned. I slammed the door. I started the engine and reversed out of the spot. I saw them standing there in the rearview mirror, 3 small figures in big hats shrinking into the distance. I turned onto the main road and merged into traffic. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. I had won the argument. I had silenced the tribunal. I had defended my name with facts and logic. But as I drove, the tears finally spilled over. They did not hurt me because they were wrong. They hurt me because for a moment I saw how my community looked at me. They did not see the hard work. They did not see the sacrifice. They saw a woman who had stepped out of line. They saw a resource that refused to be consumed. Loretta had taken the one place where I felt safe, the church, and turned it into enemy territory. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. Fine, I whispered to the empty car. If I am the villain, I will be the villain. But I will be a villain who keeps her money. The digital assault did not begin with a roar. It began with a notification that blinked innocuously on the screen of my company laptop. It was 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. I was in the middle of reviewing the quarterly projections with my chief financial officer. The numbers were strong. The company was healthy. For a few hours, I had allowed myself to forget the parking lot ambush and the scene in the lobby. Then Sarah knocked on the glass door. She did not wait for permission to enter. Her face was pale, and her eyes were wide with panic. She held her tablet against her chest as if she were shielding me from a physical weapon. Ms. Davis, Sarah said. Her voice was tight. You need to see this. I looked at my CFO. Give us a moment, please. He nodded and gathered his files, leaving the room quickly. He sensed the tension in the air. I turned to Sarah. Is it Dante again? Is he in the building? No, Sarah said. She walked around the desk and placed the tablet in front of me. It is Tasha. She is live on Instagram. It has been running for 20 minutes. It already has 5,000 viewers. I looked down at the screen. The video was shaky. Tasha was filming from her bedroom. I recognized the peeling beige wallpaper and the poster of a rapper that had been there since she was a teenager. She was wearing a hoodie and she looked disheveled. Her eyes were red and puffy. She was putting on the performance of a lifetime. I pressed the volume button. You guys do not understand, Tasha sobbed into the camera. She wiped a tear that looked suspiciously like tap water from her cheek. We are not asking for charity. We are asking for justice. My cousin Nia Davis. Yeah, the big shot CEO of Davis Tech. She is a fraud. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hands gripped the edge of the mahogany desk. She stole it, Tasha continued. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "She stole the whole idea. My cousin Dante came up with that logistics algorithm 5 years ago. He wrote it down in a notebook. He showed it to her because he trusted her. He thought she was going to help him build it. Instead, she took his notebook and ran. She locked him out of the company. She left him with nothing while she bought penthouses and fancy cars." I stared at the screen in disbelief. The lie was so bold and so absurd that for a moment I could not breathe. Dante could not write a line of code if his life depended on it. He thought Java was a type of coffee, but Tasha was not done. "And now our parents are sick," she wailed. "Uncle Bernard can barely walk. Aunt Loretta is skipping her heart medication to pay for groceries. And Nia, she laughs at them. She came to the house the other night and threw money in their faces. She told them they deserved to starve. Who does that to their own family?" I scrolled down to the comments. They were scrolling by so fast they were a blur of rage. "Cancel her. Hashtag ungrateful sister. Boycott Davis Tech. She is a predator." This is what happens when people forget their roots. The hashtag ungrateful sister was already trending locally. I looked up at Sarah. The young woman looked terrified. "The phone lines are lighting up, Ms. Davis," she whispered. "People are calling the customer service line and screaming at the operators. They are calling you a thief." I felt a cold rage settle in my stomach. This was not just a family squabble anymore. This was a targeted attack on my livelihood. Tasha knew exactly what she was doing. She knew that in the current climate, an accusation of stealing from a black man to enrich yourself was a death sentence for my reputation. "Get Jasmine on the phone," I said. My voice was deadly calm. "And tell the social media team to lock down our accounts. Do not delete the comments. Archive them. We need evidence." Sarah nodded and ran out of the room. I sat there watching the video loop. Tasha was crying again. She was talking about how much she loved me and how much it hurt to tell the truth. It was a masterclass in manipulation. Then my email pinged. I clicked on the notification. It was from Marcus Thorne. He was the venture capitalist I had been courting for 6 months. He was the key to our expansion into the European market. The subject line was simply, "Concern." "Dear Nia, my team just forwarded me a video that is circulating online. The allegations regarding the ownership of your IP are concerning. We take intellectual property theft very seriously. Until this matter is fully resolved and cleared, we will be pausing all due diligence on the Series B funding. Regards, Marcus." I stared at the words. The letters seemed to swim before my eyes. Tasha had done it. With one lies-filled video, she had cost me a $10 million deal. She had taken a torch to 5 years of my hard work. My cell phone buzzed. I looked at the caller ID. It was Bernard. My heart leaped. For a split second, a foolish, childish hope bloomed in my chest. He had seen the video. He knew it was a lie. He was calling to apologize. He was calling to tell me he would make Tasha take it down. He was finally going to be my father. I picked up the phone. "Dad?" I asked. My voice cracked. Nia came his voice. It sounded heavy and tired. "Dad, you saw it. You saw what Tasha is doing. She is lying to the whole world. She is saying I stole the company from Dante. She is saying you are starving. You have to stop her. You have to go over there and tell her to delete it." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear the faint sound of the television in the background. He was watching a game show. "Nia, baby," he said slowly, "you know how Tasha is. She is emotional. She is just trying to help your brother." "Help him," I shouted. I stood up and paced the length of my office. "She is destroying me, Dad. I just lost a major investor. She is accusing me of theft. This is libel. This is criminal." "Calm down," Nia Bernard said. His voice was soothing, but it grated on my nerves like sandpaper. "Getting lawyers involved is only going to make it worse. You know how that looks. The white folks love to see us fighting in court. Do not give them the satisfaction." I stopped pacing. I gripped the phone so tight my fingers ached. "So what do you suggest I do?" I asked. My voice dropped to a whisper. "Just pay him," Nia Bernard said. The words hung in the air. They were heavy and suffocating. What I asked. "Just give Dante the money he asked for. Bernard said. His tone was practical, as if he were suggesting I pay a parking ticket. $50,000, maybe $100. That is nothing to you. You make that in a week. Just write the check, and I will make Tasha take the video down. I will tell Dante to back off. We can all go back to being a family. I felt the room spin. You are negotiating a ransom, I said. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. You are holding my reputation hostage. I am trying to keep the peace, Bernard said. I am an old man, Nia. I am tired of the shouting. I am tired of your mother crying. I just want some quiet. Why do you have to be so stubborn? Why is the money more important to you than your father's peace of mind? It is not about the money, I screamed. I did not care that Sarah could hear me. I did not care that my employees were outside the door. It is about the truth. Dad, he is lying. He is a con artist, and you know it. You sat at that table and watched me throw the proof in his face. And now you want me to pay him for lying about me. He is your brother, Bernard said. His voice hardened. And I am your father. I am telling you to fix this. Be the bigger person, Nia. Be the strong one. You always were. The tears that had been threatening to fall evaporated. The heat in my chest turned to ice. Be the strong one. That was it. That was the role I had been cast in since birth. Dante was the star. Tasha was the baby. Loretta was the queen. And I was the mule. I was the one who carried the load. I was the one who took the hits. I was the one who was expected to sacrifice my dignity so they could be comfortable. And my father, the man I had spent my whole life trying to impress, was the one tightening the straps. No, I said. Nia, do not do this, Bernard warned. No, I repeated. My voice was steady now. It was the voice of the CEO. It was the voice of the woman who had built an empire from nothing. I am done being the strong one, Dad. I am done paying for Dante's mistakes. I am done protecting you from your own cowardice. Nia, listen to me, Bernard started. No, you listen! I cut him off. Tell Tasha she has 1 hour to take that video down. Tell Dante that if he comes near my office again, I will have him arrested. And you, I paused. I looked out the window at the city I had conquered. Do not call me again until you are ready to be a father instead of a bagman for an extortionist. I hung up the phone. I stood there for a long moment. The silence in the office was deafening. I felt a phantom pain in my chest, as if something vital had been severed. The little girl who wanted her daddy's approval had just died. I looked at the phone in my hand. Then I looked at the contact named Dad. I pressed the block caller button. I scrolled to Mom. I blocked her too. I scrolled to Dante. Blocked. I scrolled to Tasha. Blocked. I put the phone down on the desk. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. I walked to the door and opened it. Sarah was standing there looking terrified. Get Jasmine back on the line, I said. Yes, Ms. Davis, Sarah said. And Sarah, I said. She looked up. Draft a press release, I said. We are going to issue a statement. We are denying all allegations, and we are announcing a defamation lawsuit against Tasha Davis. Sarah's eyes widened. A lawsuit against your cousin? I looked her dead in the eye. She is not my cousin, I said. She is a defendant. I walked back into my office and closed the door. The time for mercy was over. The time for family loyalty was over. They wanted a war. They wanted to drag me into the mud. They forgot one thing. I was the one who owned the heavy machinery, and I was about to bury them. The notification arrived at 10:14 in the morning. It was a Tuesday, and the sky over Denver was a bruised purple color that promised a heavy storm. I was sitting at my desk trying to salvage the wreckage of my reputation. The social media firestorm Tasha had ignited was slowly dying down, but the smoke damage remained. I had spent the last week on conference calls with nervous clients, reassuring them that I was not a thief and that Davis Tech was stable. I took a sip of lukewarm tea and glanced at my inbox. The email sat at the top of the unread pile. The sender's name made my breath catch in my throat. Arthur Sterling. Arthur Sterling was not a man you ignored. He was a titan of Denver real estate. He was a shark in a three-piece suit who owned half the commercial buildings in the downtown district. I had met him once at a charity gala 2 years ago. We had exchanged polite pleasantries for 30 seconds. I frowned. Why was Arthur Sterling emailing me? I looked at the subject line. Urgent confirmation of matching funds regarding Davis properties. I stared at the words. My brain tried to process them, but the syntax felt wrong. Matching funds. Davis properties. I did not own a real estate company. I owned a software company. I clicked open the email. My hand felt heavy on the mouse. Dear Ms. Davis, it was a pleasure speaking with your partner and brother Dante regarding the Renaissance project last week. His passion for the revitalization of the East Denver corridor is infectious. Based on the prospectus he provided and your signed letter of intent to match our investment with $5 million in liquid capital, Sterling Ventures is prepared to move forward. Please find the attached countersigned agreement. We have scheduled the wire transfer for Friday, pending your final signature on the bank authorization form. We are excited to be in business with the Davis family. Sincerely, Arthur Sterling. The room began to spin. $5 million. I read the number again. $5 million. I felt a cold sweat break out on the back of my neck. I had never spoken to Arthur Sterling about a project. I had never agreed to match any funds. I had never signed a letter of intent. I clicked the attachment. The file name was Davis Properties Prospectus Final.pdf. The document opened. It was slick. It was professional. The cover featured a glossy rendering of a high-rise building that looked suspiciously like a stock photo. In bold gold letters across the bottom it read, Davis Properties, Building the Future, Family owned, family operated. I scrolled down. Page 2 was the executive summary. It was filled with buzzwords like synergy and community empowerment. It was gibberish, but it sounded expensive. Page 3 stopped my heart. It was the leadership page. At the top was a photo of Dante. He was wearing that same blue suit, but someone had photoshopped it to look darker and more expensive. Under his name, it read, Dante Davis, founder and CEO. And right next to him was me. It was my professional headshot taken from my LinkedIn profile. Under my smiling face, the text read, Nia Davis, co-founder and chief financial officer, silent partner. I read the bio. Nia Davis brings her extensive experience as the CEO of Davis Tech and her personal capital of $28 million to the Davis Properties Board. Ms. Davis has fully vetted this project and has committed her personal assets to guarantee the initial construction phase. I felt sick. A physical nausea rolled in my stomach. He had not just asked for money. He had stolen my identity. He had taken my name, my reputation, and my face, and he had pasted them onto a fraudulent document to swindle one of the most dangerous businessmen in Colorado. I scrolled to the last page. There it was, the letter of intent. And at the bottom in blue ink was my signature. It was a good forgery. It had the loop on the D and the sharp slant of the N that I used. To an outsider, it looked authentic. To me, it looked like a violation. I grabbed my phone. My fingers were trembling so hard I almost dropped it. I dialed Jasmine. She picked up on the first ring. Nia, she asked. Her voice was sharp. She knew I would not call unless it was an emergency. Open your email, I said. My voice sounded hollow and distant, like I was speaking from underwater. I just forwarded you something. I heard the clicking of her keyboard. There was a pause. A long, heavy silence stretched between us. Oh my God, Jasmine whispered. He forged my signature. Jasmine, I said. He told Arthur Sterling I am putting up $5 million. He is waiting for a wire transfer on Friday. I heard the sound of pages turning. Jasmine was reading fast. Nia, Jasmine said. Her tone had changed completely. It was no longer the voice of a friend or a confidant. It was the voice of a ruthless criminal defense attorney. Listen to me very carefully, she said. This is not a family dispute anymore. This is not about Tasha talking trash on Instagram. I know, I whispered. No, you do not know, Jasmine said firmly. This is wire fraud. This is securities fraud. This is grand larceny. He has solicited millions of dollars across state lines using falsified documents. He has implicated you as a conspirator. She paused to let the weight of her words sink in. If Sterling sends that money and Dante touches a single cent of it, you are both going to federal prison. The FBI does not care that you did not know. Your name is on the paperwork. Your signature is on the contract. You are the chief financial officer of a criminal enterprise. I gripped the edge of my desk. I could feel the blood draining from my face. He is trying to frame me, I said. He knows he cannot pay it back. He knows the project is fake. When it collapses, Sterling will come after me because I am the one with the assets. Exactly, Jasmine said. He is using you as a shield and a bank account. He is counting on you being too afraid of a scandal to expose him. He thinks you will just pay the $5 million to make it go away, to keep your name clean. I closed my eyes. I saw Dante's face. I saw the way he smiled when he called me a bitch in the lobby. I saw the way Loretta looked at him with blind adoration. They were willing to destroy me. They were willing to send me to jail to keep their golden boy shining. He has crossed the line, I said. He leaped over the line and set it on fire, Jasmine corrected. I am coming over. Do not talk to anyone. Do not call Sterling yet. We need to build a dossier. We need to prove this is a forgery before the money moves. She took a breath. Nia, be prepared for what I asked. To put your brother in handcuffs, Jasmine said, because that is the only way you walk out of this clean. You have to be the one to turn him in. I looked at the glossy PDF on my screen. I looked at the fake title under my name. Silent Partner. I opened my eyes. The fear was gone. It was replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I am not silent anymore, I said. Come over, Jasmine. Let us burn it down. Jasmine turned my office into a war room within 20 minutes of her arrival. She commanded my assistant to clear the schedule for the rest of the day. She closed the blinds to shut out the view of the city that I felt was slowly slipping from my grasp. The large mahogany conference table was now covered in stacks of paper. My printer hummed rhythmically in the corner as it spit out public records, property deeds, and court filings. I sat at the head of the table. I felt numb. The coffee in my mug had turned cold hours ago, but I kept lifting it to my lips out of habit. Jasmine sat opposite me. Her laptop was open, and her eyes were scanning lines of text with the precision of a surgeon looking for a tumor. She was not my friend right now. She was a weapon I had hired to save my life. This is bad, Nia, Jasmine said. She did not look up from the screen. It is worse than we thought. How much worse? I asked. My voice sounded brittle. Jasmine spun her laptop around so I could see the screen. It displayed a high-resolution scan of the signature page from the Sterling contract. She had overlaid it with a digital copy of my actual signature from my driver's license. Look at the pressure points, Jasmine said. She pointed to the curve of the letter N. A normal forgery is shaky. The hand hesitates because the brain knows it is lying. But look at this stroke. It is fluid. It is confident. I stared at the image. The two signatures were nearly identical. He practiced, I whispered. He did more than practice, Jasmine said. He mastered it. He has been planning this for months, Nia. This was not a desperate act of a man who needed quick cash. This was a premeditated strategy to identity theft. He studied your hand. He likely traced old birthday cards or checks you sent him years ago. I felt a fresh wave of nausea. The betrayal was intimate. My own brother had studied my handwriting like a scholar studies a text so he could rob me blind. But why now, I asked. Why risk federal prison for $5 million? Dante is greedy, but he is also a coward. He knows Arthur Sterling will bury him if this goes south. He has to know he cannot actually build a skyscraper. Jasmine closed the image and opened a new browser tab. She navigated to the Colorado Secretary of State website. That is the question I asked myself, Jasmine said. Why the urgency? Why the sloppy approach with the loan sharks? So I started digging into his personal financials. I pulled his credit report. It is a disaster, of course. But then I looked for judgments and liens. She clicked a link. A document loaded on the screen. It was a property deed. Do you recognize this address? Jasmine asked. I squinted at the screen. 412 Oak Street. My heart stopped. That is my parents' house, I said. Jasmine nodded slowly. Her face was grim. Look at the date on the filing. I read the date. It was 3 months ago. And look at the lender, Jasmine said. I looked at the line listed under lien holder. It did not say Bank of America or Wells Fargo. It said Obsidian Holdings, LLC. I do not understand, I said. My parents paid off their mortgage 5 years ago. They threw a party. They burned the paperwork in the backyard. Why is there a lien on the house? Because Dante took out a second mortgage, Jasmine said. She pulled a piece of paper from the stack on the table and slid it toward me. It was a copy of the loan agreement. It was signed by Dante Davis and Loretta Davis. My mother signed this, I asked. I felt like the room was tilting. She did, Jasmine said. Or he forged her signature too. But given how she has been pressuring you, I am willing to bet she signed it willingly. I read the terms of the loan. The principal amount was $200,000. The interest rate was 15%. He took out $200,000 against the house, I whispered. Where did the money go? Jasmine typed quickly on her keyboard. She pulled up another window. Gambling debts mostly, she said. I found a lawsuit from a casino in Las Vegas that was settled out of court 2 months ago, and a lease on that BMW, and he rented office space in Lodo to look professional for investors. He blew through $200,000 in 90 days, Nia. I put my head in my hands. They bet the house. They literally bet the house on Dante. But that is not the worst part, Jasmine said. Her voice dropped an octave. It became very quiet and very serious. I looked up. How can it get worse than my parents being homeless? Because the house was not enough, Jasmine said. $200,000 did not cover his hole. He owed more, a lot more. And when the bank said no, and the hard money lenders said no, he went to the street. She slid another document across the table. This one looked different. It was not a formal bank document. It was a promissory note, but it was crude. It looked like something typed on a typewriter. The lender was listed as Apex Solutions. I have never heard of them, I said. You are not supposed to, Jasmine said. Apex Solutions is a shell company for the Valenti Syndicate. They are loan sharks, Nia. Real ones. The kind that do not sue you when you default. They break your legs. I stared at the paper. The amount borrowed was $500,000. The interest rate was listed as 10%. That is not bad, I said, confused. 10% is lower than the mortgage. Jasmine looked at me with pity. Nia, that is not 10% per year, she said. That is 10% per week. My breath caught in my throat. I did the math in my head. $50,000 a week in interest alone. He borrowed $500,000 from the mob, I whispered. And look at the guarantor, Jasmine said. She pointed to the bottom of the page. There it was again. My signature. He used your name to guarantee a loan from the mob, Jasmine said. He told them that his rich sister, the tech CEO, was backing his play. He showed them your Forbes profile. He showed them your bank balance on that app you flashed at dinner. That is why they gave him the money. They do not care about Dante. They know he is a bum. They gave him the money because they think they can collect from you. I stood up. I could not sit anymore. I paced the length of the office. My heels sank into the plush carpet. So that is why he needs the sterling money, I said. The pieces were finally clicking into place. The urgency, the desperation, the text messages at 3 a.m. He is not trying to build a building, I said. He is trying to stay alive. Exactly, Jasmine said. He owes Apex Solutions probably close to $1 million by now with the Vigorish. He needs the $5 million from Sterling to pay off the sharks and pay off the lien on the house before anyone finds out. He is robbing Peter to pay Paul, but Paul is holding a baseball bat. And if Sterling does not wire the money, I asked. Jasmine took a deep breath. If the money does not come, Dante defaults, Jasmine said. Apex Solutions will come looking for their guarantor. That is you. They will come to this office. They will come to your apartment. They will consider you responsible for the debt. And my parents, I asked. Obsidian Holdings will foreclose on the house, Jasmine said. Your parents will be on the street within 30 days. I walked to the window. I looked down at the city. The storm clouds had finally broken, and rain was lashing against the glass. It blurred the world outside into a gray smudge. He trapped me, I said. He set a fire and chained me to the radiator. If I expose him, he goes to prison and the mob might kill him. If I do nothing, I become an accomplice to fraud, and I owe the mob $1 million. You have a third option, Jasmine said. I turned around. What is it? We detonate the bomb on our terms, Jasmine said. We go to the FBI. We tell them everything. We tell them about the forgery. We tell them about the loan sharks. We get you into protective custody if we have to. And Dante, I asked. He made his bed, Jasmine said, cold and unyielding. Let him sleep in it. If he goes to prison, at least he is safe from the Valentis. It might actually be the safest place for him. I looked at the stack of papers on the table. The evidence of my family's destruction. Loretta knew, I said. It was not a question. She signed the mortgage, Jasmine said. She knew he was gambling with their roof. She might not know about the mob, but she knows he is drowning. That is why she sent the church ladies. That is why she guilted you. She is terrified. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It was not pain anymore. It was clarity. It was the absolute zero of emotional detachment. They were willing to sacrifice me. They were willing to let thugs come after me. They were willing to let me go to prison for fraud, all to save Dante from the consequences of his own ego. I walked back to the table. I placed my hand on the stack of evidence. Prepare the affidavit, Jasmine, I said. You are sure, Jasmine asked. I am sure, I said, but we are not going to the FBI yet. Jasmine frowned. Why not? Every minute we wait is a risk. Because I want to look him in the eye, I said. I want him to know that it was me. I want him to know that his plain, boring sister was the one who brought him down. I looked at the calendar on the wall. Call Loretta, I said. Tell her I have had a change of heart. Tell her I am ready to sign the papers for the Sterling deal. Jasmine's eyes widened. You are going to sting him. I am going to end him, I said. Tell them to come here tomorrow morning. Tell them to bring the whole family. I want Tasha here too. I want witnesses. But the loan sharks, Jasmine said. If they find out... I cut her off. I will hire private security, I said. I will have armed guards in the room. But this ends tomorrow, Jasmine. No more texts. No more guilt. No more debt. I picked up the forged promissory note. I looked at my signature one last time. Tomorrow, I take my name back. The silence in my office was heavy and suffocating. It felt less like a workspace and more like a crypt where my family history was being autopsied. Jasmine sat across from me with her laptop screen glowing against her tired face. We had spent hours dissecting the financial ruin Dante had created. We had uncovered the loans from the mob and the forged signatures and the fake corporate filings. I thought I had reached the bottom. I thought I had seen the worst of it. But Jasmine stopped typing. She did not say a word. She just stopped. Her fingers hovered over the keys, and her eyes locked onto something on the screen. She read it once. Then she read it again. Then she slowly closed her eyes and took a deep, shuddering breath. What is it? I asked. My voice was hoarse from hours of talking. Did you find another loan? Did he steal more money? Jasmine did not answer immediately. She looked at me with an expression I had never seen on her face before. It was not anger. It was not determination. It was pure heartbreak. Nia, she said softly, you do not want to see this. Let us just file the papers. Let us just end it. You do not need to read this one. I sat up straighter. The fear in her voice triggered an alarm in my chest. Show me Jasmine, I said. Nia, please, she whispered. This one is different. This one is not about money. Show me, I repeated. My voice was steel. I need to know the whole truth. If I am going to destroy them, I need to know exactly who I am fighting. Jasmine hesitated for one more second. Then she slowly turned the laptop around. It was not a bank document. It was a screenshot of a text message thread recovered from Dante's cloud backup, which was linked to the email address we had just hacked. The conversation was dated 3 months ago. It was dated 2 days before the loan with the mob was signed, and 1 week before the forgery of the Sterling contract began. The participants were listed as Dante and Dad. I felt a cold hand grip my heart. I leaned forward. Dad, I do not know about this Dante. Using Nia's name without asking her feels wrong. What if the investors call her? What if she gets in trouble with her board of directors? I read the words and felt a tiny flicker of hope. He had hesitated. He had worried about me. He was still my father. Then I read Dante's reply. Dante. Stop worrying, old man. She will never know. I just need the name to get the cash. Once the project starts, we pay it back and she is none the wiser. Besides, look at her. She is sitting in that tower with millions while we drive used cars. She owes us this. I waited for my father to defend me. I waited for him to say that I earned that money. I waited for him to say that theft was theft, no matter how rich the victim was. I read the next message from Bernard. Dad, but is it dangerous for her? If this goes bad, will she go to jail? Dante, she is rich, Dad. Rich people do not go to jail. She has lawyers. She can afford to take a hit. We cannot. Do you want to lose the house? Do you want Mom to keep crying every night about the bills? We need this. Nia can handle herself. She is the strong one. Remember. I held my breath. My eyes watered as I stared at the 3 dots that indicated my father was typing his response. This was the moment. This was the moment he chose between his integrity and his comfort. This was the moment he chose between his son and his daughter. Dad. Okay, just make sure it does not blow back on us. I will sign the deed for the loan. Just get the money, Dante. I am tired of being broke. The air left my lungs. I read it again. Just make sure it does not blow back on us. He did not say make sure Nia is safe. He did not say stop this madness. He said protect us. He said get the money. He knew. My father knew everything. He knew about the forgery. He knew about the risk. He knew his son was using me as a human shield against financial ruin. And he agreed to it. He signed off on it because he was tired of being broke. The man who taught me to ride a bike. The man who sat in the front row at my high school graduation. The man I had defended for years as being too passive, too gentle to stand up to Loretta. He was not passive. He was a co-conspirator. A sound escaped my throat. It was a low guttural sob that I could not hold back. It ripped through the professional silence of the office. Nia Jasmine said. She reached across the table to grab my hand. I pulled away. I stood up and walked to the window. I pressed my forehead against the cold glass. The city lights below blurred into streaks of gold and red. He sold me, I whispered. The tears were flowing freely, now hot and fast. He sold me for a quiet life. He was willing to let me go to prison so he could keep that house. He thought you could handle it, Jasmine said gently. Her voice came from behind me. They all think you are invincible, Nia. They think because you have money you do not have feelings. They think you are made of steel. I am not made of steel. I screamed at the reflection in the glass. I am his daughter. I am his little girl. How could he do this? How could he look me in the eye at that dinner table and eat his cornbread, knowing he had signed my life away? I slid down to the floor. I pulled my knees to my chest. I buried my face in my hands and I wept. I cried for the little girl who waited for her dad to come home from work. I cried for the woman who had sent them money every Christmas, hoping to buy their love. I cried for the illusion of family that I had clung to for 30 years. It was a deep, purging grief. It was the death of hope. Jasmine did not touch me. She did not try to comfort me with empty platitudes. She sat in her chair and bore witness to my pain. She let me break. I cried until my throat was raw. I cried until there were no more tears left to shed. And then silence returned to the room. It was a different kind of silence. It was not heavy. It was empty. It was the silence of a house after a funeral. I lifted my head. I wiped my face with the back of my hand. I stood up. I walked to the private bathroom attached to my office. I washed my face with cold water. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, but they were dry. My makeup was ruined, but my skin was clear. I looked into my own pupils. I saw the woman who had built a company from a laptop in a basement. I saw the woman who had negotiated deals with sharks. The daughter was gone. She had died on the floor of that office. I smoothed my hair. I adjusted my blazer. I walked back into the main room. Jasmine was watching me closely. She saw the change. She saw the steel that had finally formed in my spine. "Are you okay?" she asked. I walked to the table and looked down at the laptop one last time. I looked at the message from Bernard. "Just get the money." "I am done," I said. My voice was flat. It was devoid of emotion. "Done crying?" Jasmine asked. "Done with them," I said. I looked at Jasmine. The sadness was gone, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. My father is not a victim, Jasmine. He is an accomplice. He chose his side. Now he has to live with the consequences. I sat down in my chair. I picked up a pen. Prepare the files, I said. Jasmine nodded. She opened a new folder. Which files? Everything I said. The affidavit for the forgery, the evidence of wire fraud, the report on the loan sharks, and the eviction notice for the house. You are going to evict them, Jasmine asked. I am going to buy the debt from the bank, I said. I am going to buy the foreclosure rights, and then I am going to put them out. I looked at the city skyline. It looked different now. It looked like a battlefield I had conquered. I want them out of my life, Jasmine, I said. I want to cut the cancer out before it kills me. All of them. Dante, Loretta, Tasha, and especially Bernard. Jasmine typed furiously. Her fingers flew across the keys. And the meeting tomorrow, she asked. The sting. It is still on, I said. But the script has changed. I am not just going to catch Dante. I am going to expose Bernard. I am going to make him read those text messages out loud in front of his wife and his son. I want them to see what their loyalty is actually worth. I stood up and gathered the papers. Call security, I said. Tell them to double the guard for tomorrow morning, and tell Sarah to order coffee. I looked at Jasmine, and for the first time in weeks, I smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile. Tomorrow is going to be a very long day for the Davis family. I sat in my leather executive chair and stared at the phone on my desk. It was no longer a communication device. It was a detonator. I had spent the last hour composing myself. I had washed my face with cold water. I had reapplied my lipstick in a shade of deep crimson that looked like war paint. I had locked the heartbreak regarding my father into a steel box in the back of my mind. Now I had to play the role of the defeated daughter. I had to become the submissive cash cow they believed me to be. I dialed Loretta's number. It rang 3 times before she answered. I could hear the clatter of pots and pans in the background. Hello, Loretta asked. Her voice was sharp and defensive. She was expecting a fight. She was expecting me to scream about the forged mortgage or the text messages. Mom, I said. My voice was quiet. It was the voice of a woman who had been beaten down. I am tired. Loretta paused. The background noise stopped. What do you mean you are tired? I am tired of the fighting, I said. I let a tremor enter my voice. I saw the video Tasha posted. I saw the comments. I cannot do this anymore, Mom. My investors are pulling out. My reputation is being destroyed. You win. There was a silence on the other end. Then I heard a sound that made my skin crawl. It was a sigh of satisfaction. I told you, Nia, Loretta said. Her tone shifted instantly from defensive to patronizing. I told you that you were fighting against God's will. You cannot turn your back on your family and expect to prosper. I know, I said. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. I want to fix it. I want to make the investment. Loretta gasped. You mean the $5 million you are going to sign the papers for Dante? Yes, I said. I am going to sign everything. I want the family to be whole again. I want Dad to stop worrying. I want Tasha to take down that video. Loretta laughed. It was a triumphant cackle. Praise Jesus. I knew you would come around. I knew my prayers would break that stony heart of yours. I will tell Dante right away. He will be so happy, Nia. He was just saying how much he misses you. I bet he does, I thought. He misses his guarantor. Tell him to bring the paperwork to my office tomorrow morning, I said. Tell him to bring the prospectus and the bank forms. And Mom, yes, baby? She asked. She was already mentally spending the money. I want everyone there, I said. You, Dad, Dante, even Tasha. We need to do this as a family. We need to heal together. Of course, Loretta said. We will be there. 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, I said. Do not be late. I hung up the phone. For a moment, I sat in the silence. Then the vibration started. My phone lit up with a notification. It was a text from Dante. Knew you were smart, sis. See you tomorrow. Drinks are on me this weekend. I did not reply. Then a notification from Tasha. Video is archived. Glad you finally got some sense. Family first. Then the group chat notifications began to roll in. Loretta had clearly sent a mass text to the extended family. So proud of my daughter Nia for stepping up. God is good. That is the Davis spirit. I watched the messages scroll by. They were celebrating their victory. They were celebrating the successful extortion of their own flesh and blood. They thought they had broken me. They thought I was capitulating to save my image. They had no idea that they were walking into a slaughterhouse. I stood up and walked to the door. Sarah was waiting at her desk. She looked up at me with concern. "Is it done?" she asked. "It is done," I said. "They are coming tomorrow at 10. Sarah nodded. She looked terrified. She knew the plan. She knew what was about to happen in the conference room. I walked past her to the main boardroom. It was a cavernous space with a long glass table that seated 20 people. The view of the Rocky Mountains was spectacular. It was a room designed to intimidate. I started the preparations. I walked to the bookshelf in the corner. Nestled between a row of technical manuals and a decorative vase was a small black lens. It was a high-definition camera with a microphone array. I checked the feed on my tablet. The angle was perfect. It covered the entire table. It would capture every face and every word. I adjusted the lighting. I wanted it bright. I wanted there to be no shadows where they could hide. Then I walked to the side door that connected the boardroom to a smaller private office. I opened it. Jasmine was sitting inside. She had her files spread out on a small desk. She had the affidavit from the handwriting expert. She had the report from the private investigator regarding the loan sharks. She had the text messages printed on large poster boards. "You are sure about this?" Jasmine asked. She looked up at me. "Once we open this door tomorrow, there is no going back. You are sending your brother to prison, Nia. You are evicting your parents." I looked at the poster board with the text messages. I looked at the words my father had written. "Just get the money." "I am sure," I said. My voice was cold. "They made their choice, Jasmine. They chose the money over me. Tomorrow I am just giving them what they wanted. I am giving them a business transaction." Jasmine nodded. She looked grim but ready. "I have the security team on standby," she said. "2 uniformed officers in the lobby and 2 plainclothes guards who will wait in the hallway. If Dante tries anything physical, they will be in the room in 3 seconds." "Good," I said. I walked back into the main boardroom. I stood at the head of the table. I placed a single pen on the glass surface. It was a heavy silver fountain pen. It looked expensive. It looked like the kind of pen a tycoon would use to sign a $5 million check. It was the bait. I imagined Dante walking in here tomorrow. I imagined the swagger in his walk. I imagined the greed in Loretta's eyes. I imagined the relief on Bernard's face because he thought his cowardice had paid off. They would sit down, they would smile, they would push the fraudulent papers toward me, and then the guillotine would drop. I turned off the lights in the boardroom, leaving only the city lights to illuminate the space. The room was silent and cold. It felt like a trap waiting to be sprung. I walked out and locked the door. "Go home, Sarah," I said as I passed her desk. "Get some rest. You are going to need it." I walked to the elevator. I felt a strange sense of calm. The fear was gone. The guilt was gone. The only thing left was the icy precision of a predator who had finally decided to stop being prey. I checked my phone one last time in the elevator. Loretta had posted a status update on Facebook. "My children are working together. God restores all things." Blessed millionaire mindset. I stared at the screen and allowed a small, humorless smile to touch my lips. Enjoy the blessing. "Mom," I whispered to the empty elevator, "because tomorrow comes the judgment." The elevator doors slid open at 10 o'clock sharp. My family stepped into the lobby of Davis Tech like they were the royal family arriving for a coronation. Dante led the pack. He was wearing a new suit. It was a 3-piece cream-colored ensemble that looked ridiculous against his pale complexion. He had a gold watch on his wrist that I knew was fake. He walked with a swagger that screamed desperation masked as confidence. Loretta was right behind him. She wore her Sunday best, a bright red dress with a matching hat that was far too large for a business meeting. She clutched her handbag like it contained the crown jewels. Her face was set in a mask of smug satisfaction. She looked around the glass lobby with greedy eyes, assessing the value of everything she saw. Bernard trailed behind them. He wore his gray church suit, which was frayed at the cuffs. He looked at the floor. He looked at the receptionist. He looked anywhere but at the camera that was tracking his every move. And Tasha brought up the rear. She was holding her phone up, filming the entire entrance for her Instagram story. She smirked at Sarah as they passed the front desk. I watched them from the monitor in the conference room. It was like watching a pack of wolves enter a trap. Sarah opened the door and ushered them in. "Here they are, Ms. Davis," Sarah said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking slightly. "Thank you, Sarah," I said. "You may go." The family filed in. Dante whistled low as he looked at the view of the Rocky Mountains. "Now this is an office," he said. He threw his briefcase onto the glass table. It landed with a heavy thud. "When the Renaissance project takes off, I am going to get a penthouse suite just like this, maybe on the floor above you." Loretta rushed over to me. She opened her arms for a hug. "Nia, baby," she exclaimed, "look at you. You look tired, but praise God you have come to your senses. We are so proud of you." I stepped back. I did not let her touch me. "Sit down," I said. My voice was neutral. "Let us get this over with. I have a meeting at 11. Loretta's smile faltered for a second, but she recovered quickly. She sat down in one of the leather chairs. Tasha sat next to her, still pointing her phone at me. "Put the phone away, Tasha," I said. "This is a private business meeting." Tasha rolled her eyes. "Whatever. I am just documenting the family success." But she lowered the phone. Dante sat at the head of the table opposite me. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick stack of papers. He slid them across the glass. "Here it is, sis," he said. "The deal of the century. Just sign on the dotted line and authorize the wire transfer. Mr. Sterling is expecting the funds by noon." I looked at the stack of papers. On top was the glossy prospectus with my face on it. I picked it up. I turned the pages slowly. The room was silent, except for the sound of paper rustling. "So this is the plan," I said. I looked at Dante. "You claim here that you have secured the zoning permits from the city for a 30-story mixed-use tower. Is that true?" Dante did not blink. "Absolutely," he said. "I had lunch with the zoning commissioner last week. It is a done deal. We break ground in August." I nodded. "And here on page 12. It says that I have already reviewed the architectural drawings and approved the budget." "Did I do that, Dante?" Dante laughed nervously. "Come on, Nia, do not be like that. You know we talked about it. You gave me the verbal go-ahead. This is just the paperwork catching up to reality." I looked at Loretta. "Mom?" I asked. "Did you hear me give the verbal go-ahead?" Loretta nodded vigorously. The feather on her hat bobbed. "Of course I did, sugar. You told him at dinner. You said you wanted to help him build his dream. Do not play memory games now. Just sign the paper so your brother can work." I looked at the signature page. I traced my finger over the forgery. "And this," I said, "the letter of intent to Mr. Sterling. It is signed Nia Davis. It is dated 3 weeks ago. Did I sign this?" Dante leaned forward. His eyes were hard. "You signed it, Nia," he said. His voice was low and threatening. "You signed it and you mailed it to me. Stop wasting time. Mr. Sterling is waiting." I looked at Bernard. "Dad," I said. My father looked up. His eyes were watery. "You saw the text messages, Dad," I said. "You asked Dante if it was dangerous to use my name. You asked if I would go to jail." Bernard flinched. He looked at Dante, then at Loretta. "Just sign it, Nia," he whispered. His voice was barely audible. "Just give him the money so we can go home. Please." I stared at him. He had just confirmed the conspiracy on camera. He had just hammered the final nail into his own coffin. I closed the folder. I placed my hands on the glass table. "You are right," I said. "Mr. Sterling is waiting." Dante grinned. He pulled a gold pen from his pocket and offered it to me. "There she is," he said. "That is my sister. That is the smart one." I did not take the pen. "Actually," I said, "I think Mr. Sterling should be here to witness this himself." Dante frowned. "What? He is busy. He is in meetings." "I do not think so," I said. I pressed a button on the underside of the table. The side door to the private office opened with a sharp click. The room turned to look. Arthur Sterling stepped out. He was a tall man with silver hair and eyes like flint. He wore a charcoal suit that cost more than Dante's entire life. He was not smiling. Behind him walked two men in dark suits with gold badges clipped to their belts. They were detectives from the Denver Police Department Economic Crimes Unit, and behind them walked Jasmine carrying a thick file of evidence. Dante's face went gray. The color drained from his skin so fast he looked like a corpse. He stood up, knocking his chair over. "Mr. Sterling," he stammered, "I did not know you were coming." Mr. Sterling walked to the table. He did not look at Dante. He looked at the prospectus. "I was surprised too," Mr. Davis Sterling said. His voice was deep and cold, especially when Ms. Davis called me yesterday and told me she had never seen this document in her life. Dante looked at me. His eyes were wide with panic. "Nia, what is this?" Loretta stood up. She looked from the police to me. "Nia, what have you done?" I stood up. I felt 10 feet tall. "I asked you a question, Dante," I said. "Did I sign that letter?" Dante looked at the police. He looked at the door. He was calculating his escape, but there was nowhere to go. "It was a misunderstanding," he said. His voice cracked. "We were partners. She said she would back me. She is lying." Jasmine stepped forward. She dropped a heavy file onto the table. "We have the handwriting analysis proving the signature is a forgery," Jasmine said. "We have the text messages between you and your father conspiring to commit fraud. And we have the loan documents from Apex Solutions where you forged Nia's signature to borrow $500,000 from a criminal syndicate." The mention of Apex Solutions made Dante's knees buckle. He grabbed the table for support. "You know about Apex," he whispered. "We know everything I said." One of the detectives stepped forward. He pulled a pair of metal handcuffs from his belt. "Dante Davis," he said. "You are under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, and forgery." Dante backed away. No, you cannot do this. I am a businessman. This is a family matter." The detective grabbed Dante's arm and spun him around. He slammed Dante's chest against the glass wall. The sound of metal clicking shut echoed through the room. Loretta screamed. It was a primal sound. "You animal!" she shrieked. She lunged at me. "You set him up. You brought the police on your own. Brother!" Tasha grabbed Loretta to hold her back. "Auntie, stop!" Tasha yelled. She had dropped her phone. She looked terrified. Loretta struggled against Tasha's grip. She pointed a shaking finger at me. "You are evil," she screamed. "You are a devil. How could you do this? He is your blood." I looked at my mother. I looked at the woman who had ambushed me in a parking lot. "I am not the devil, Mother," I said. My voice was calm and clear. "I am the victim. You tried to steal $5 million from me. You tried to ruin my name. You tried to leave me with a debt to the mob." I pointed at Dante, who was being read his rights. "He is not a businessman," I said. "He is a thief, and you are his accomplice." Bernard sat in his chair. He had not moved. He was weeping silently into his hands. "Dad," I said. He did not look up. "I hope the house was worth it," I said. The detective began to march Dante toward the door. Dante was crying now, ugly, sobbing tears. "Nia, please," he begged. "Do not let them take me. Apex will kill me in there. Nia, please, I am your brother." I watched him go. I felt nothing. No pity, no regret, just a cold sense of finality. I turned to the second detective. "Remove them," I said, pointing to my parents and Tasha. "They are trespassing." Loretta was sobbing as Tasha helped her toward the door. She looked back at me one last time. Her eyes were filled with pure hatred. "I have no daughter," she spat. "Good," I said, "because I have no mother." They were escorted out. The door closed behind them. The silence returned to the boardroom. It was broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. Arthur Sterling looked at me. He nodded once, a gesture of respect. "You handled that well, Ms. Davis," he said. "Most people would have folded." I looked at the empty chair where Dante had sat. I looked at the forged papers scattered on the table. I did not have a choice. "Mr. Sterling," I said, "it was him or me." Sterling gathered his coat. My lawyers will be in touch regarding the statement for the press, he said. We will make sure your name is cleared completely. Thank you, I said. He left the room, followed by Jasmine. Jasmine paused at the door. She looked at me. Her eyes were sad, but proud. Are you okay? She asked. I walked to the window. I looked out at the mountains. The sun was high in the sky now. The storm had passed. I took a deep breath, my lungs filled with cool, filtered air. I am free, Jasmine, I said. I heard the door click shut. I was alone in my tower. The family was gone. The lies were gone. The golden boy was in handcuffs. I touched the cold glass of the window. I had burned the bridge, and as I watched the city below, I realized that the view was much better without the smoke. The fall of the Davis family was not a slow decline. It was a collapse. It happened with the violence and speed of a controlled demolition. Dante did not fight the charges. The evidence Jasmine had compiled was too overwhelming, and the threat of the federal prosecutors was too terrifying. He took a plea deal to avoid the maximum sentence. He was sentenced to 3 years in a federal correctional facility for wire fraud and identity theft. The golden boy who was supposed to revitalize the city was now an inmate in a jumpsuit that matched his spirit. He was dull and gray. The local business journals that he had so desperately wanted to feature him finally did. They ran headlines calling him a charlatan and a disgrace. His reputation was incinerated. Tasha faced her own reckoning. The internet, which she had tried to weaponize against me, turned on her with a vengeance. When the police report was made public, the commentators who had supported her realized they had been played. The hashtag changed from ungrateful sister to scammer family. She was fired from her job at the salon after customers refused to sit in her chair. She deleted her Instagram. She deleted her Facebook. She vanished into the shadows of the city she had tried to rule by proxy. But the hardest blow fell on Oak Street. The foreclosure notice arrived 2 weeks after Dante was taken into custody. The loan sharks at Apex Solutions did not care about family tragedy. They only cared about their principal. When Dante defaulted, they exercised their lien on the house. Loretta called me. Her voice was no longer commanding. It was a broken whimper. Nia, she sobbed. They are taking the house. They are putting us on the street. You have to help us, please, baby. We have nowhere to go. I did not hang up. I listened. I listened to the woman who had called me the devil beg for salvation. I will handle it, I said. 2 days later, I pulled up to the house on Oak Street. I was not driving the Range Rover. I was driving a moving truck. I parked it in the driveway behind the leased BMW that was about to be repossessed. Loretta and Bernard were waiting on the porch. They looked 10 years older. Loretta ran down the steps. Thank God, she cried. You bought it. I knew you would. I knew you would not let strangers take our home. You are a good daughter, Nia. I walked past her. I walked into the living room where the ghost of my childhood still lingered. The air smelled of stale fear. I did buy it, I said. I turned to face them. I bought the debt from Apex Solutions, and I paid off the bank. The deed is in my name now. Bernard sighed with relief. He sank onto the plastic-covered sofa. Thank you, Nia. We will pay you back. We will find a way. I looked at him. I looked at the man who had texted Dante to just get the money. You do not understand, I said. I did not buy this house for you. I bought it because I wanted to make sure the eviction was done correctly. The silence in the room was absolute. What Loretta whispered. I pulled a set of keys from my pocket. I dropped them on the coffee table. These are the keys to an apartment in Aurora, I said. It is a 1-bedroom unit on the ground floor. I have paid the rent for 6 months. After that, you are on your own. Loretta's face twisted in horror. Aurora. A 1-bedroom. But this is our home. Nia, we raised you here. You raised a bank account here, I said. Not a daughter. I motioned to the door. You have 4 hours to pack your clothes and your personal items, I said. The movers will take the furniture to the apartment. Anything left behind will be thrown away. Bernard stood up. His hands were shaking. Nia, you cannot do this, he said. His voice was trembling with a mix of fear and anger. We are your parents. We made a mistake, but to kick us out, to humiliate us like this? Where is your heart? My heart is fine, Dad, I said. It is just closed for business. I walked over to him. I stood toe-to-toe with the man I had once idolized. "You asked me where my heart is," I said. "I want to ask you something. When you texted Dante, when you told him to just get the money, did you think about my heart then? Did you think about my life when you signed that second mortgage?" Bernard looked away. He could not hold my gaze. "I was scared," he mumbled. "I just wanted peace." I nodded. "Well, now you have it," I said. "You do not have a big house to maintain. You do not have a son draining your retirement. You have a small apartment and a quiet life. You got exactly what you wanted." I turned to walk out. "This is cruel," Bernard called out. "No, Dad," I said without looking back. "This is a transaction. You sold your silence for Dante's scheme. I just paid the bill, and this is your receipt." I walked out to the truck. I watched as the movers began to carry out the boxes. I watched my parents shrink into the background of their own lives. They were small people who had cast a large shadow over me for too long. Now the sun was directly overhead, and the shadows were gone. 6 months later, the air in Denver was crisp and smelling of pine. I stood on the balcony of my penthouse apartment. The city was spread out below me like a glittering carpet of diamonds. The wind played with the silk of my dress. Inside the glass doors, the sound of laughter filled the space. It was not a networking event. It was not a family reunion. It was a dinner party. Jasmine was there holding a glass of champagne and laughing with Sarah. My CFO was telling a joke to the new marketing director. There were friends I had met at the yoga studio and colleagues who had stood by me during the scandal. There was no tension. There was no judgment. There were no hushed whispers about money or obligation. There was only warmth. I looked at them. This was my tribe. These were the people who celebrated my wins without asking for a cut. These were the people who loved me, not because of what I could do for them, but because of who I was. Jasmine saw me standing outside. She slid the glass door open and stepped out. The noise of the party spilled out with her. "You okay?" she asked. I smiled. It was a genuine smile. It reached my eyes. "I am better than okay," I said. "I am happy." Jasmine clinked her glass against mine. "To freedom," she said. "To freedom," I repeated. I took a sip of the champagne. It tasted like victory. I thought about Dante sitting in his cell. I thought about Loretta and Bernard in their cramped apartment in Aurora. I hoped they were healthy. I hoped they were safe. But I no longer felt the need to set myself on fire to keep them warm. I had reclaimed my name. I had reclaimed my assets. But most importantly, I had reclaimed my peace. I looked out at the horizon where the mountains met the sky. The world was vast and open. I turned back to the party. "Come on," I said to Jasmine, "let us go inside. The food is getting cold." I stepped back into the light, leaving the dark night behind me. I was Nia Davis. I was a CEO. I was a survivor. And for the first time in 30 years, I was finally home. Moral lesson. We are often taught that blood is thicker than water, that family loyalty must be preserved at all costs. But this story reveals a harder truth. Loyalty without respect is just servitude. True family isn't defined by DNA, but by mutual love, support, and integrity. Breaking free from toxic relationships, even with those who raised you, is not an act of betrayal, it is an act of survival. Your worth is not a currency for others to spend. Protect your peace, build your own table, and surround yourself with people who bring value to your life, not just demands.